welcome all. We are at Health 2.0 conference sitting in Vegas, and I have with me Costas from Encode Health. Hi, Costas, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing very well, thank you.
Great.
Thank you for inviting me and interviewing me today.
Sure, it's an honor because of the great things that Encode Health is doing. And at Healthtech with Purpose podcast, we're always looking for interesting stories, especially people who are disrupting health tech. And you are coming all the way from UK, disrupting healthcare both in Europe and US. So I really was interested and keen for this talk today. So without mincing any further words, Costas, let's start. Like, tell us more about yourself and Encode.
Sure. Well, I'm medically trained, but before that, I think your listeners would like to know what I did. I went to the army. I was a tank driver in the Cypriot conscription army, and I was lucky enough to get into medicine, and I was even more lucky to get into St Andrews in Scotland. That's the university that Prince William went to. And I was the first out of my family to actually go on to further education. And so it's been a very interesting ride for both myself and for my family to kind of represent members of my family whilst I'm going through my healthcare education. So I got into St Andrews. I've always been interested in neurosurgery, and I've set up my portfolio to go into neurosurgery, and I'm currently doing research with the University of Buckingham in the applications of artificial intelligence in neurosurgery. Before that, I was working with a company called Touch Surgery, and with Touch Surgery, I was the lead surgical officer there. I engaged with some of the best surgeons in the world and with medical device corporates, and we trained surgeons how to do surgery through an app.
Okay.
And so we were the first group to actually create that narrative around how surgeries would be performed, because a lot of surgeons do surgeries very differently. And so the small, minute differences kind of add up in the way that they do it and the way that they teach it to their junior surgeons. So we created that baseline at Touch Surgery. And then I got into Encode Health.
So what are the main goals of Encode Health that you guys started with?
Well, at Encode Health, we believe in personalizing healthcare and providing access to all. What we've done, and we're still developing, we're still at the very early stages, I'd like to think of. What we've done is we've connected an electronic health record system with an inventory management system.
Okay.
And we provide forecasting capabilities there. And we allow the supply chain managers in hospitals to be able to optimize their inventory based on clinical needs. So the way that we depict it is we're matching clinical demand with medical supply. So demand and supply, basic economics, but it's not very well done. And you'd be surprised how basic the way of ordering is actually performed in hospitals. So they set certain levels, and the supply chain manager or representative thereof would actually go in, look at the levels, and then just basically order. This can create levels of waste. This can create levels where certain types of devices or inventory might actually expire before it's used. So we can create alerts around that. We can help an intelligent way of optimizing inventory based on the needs, based on which particular specialty requires certain types of device, certain types of inventory. We contextualize every bit of the supply chain. Yeah, that's. I think I said that in a very long-winded way, And I'd like to say again that we're at the very beginning stages of development. We've been very lucky to have won one of the largest grants that the UK offer.
Okay.
So it's called the Smart Grant Award, and that's helped us develop the platform using artificial intelligence. We have different types of artificial intelligence, and we're looking at the regulatory landscape as well to make sure that we're complying with the direction that the regulations in artificial intelligence in healthcare is going as well.
So I think you've mentioned a lot of different threads that I'd like to talk more about, Costas.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe let's start with digging deeper into the problem. So I think that's a very peculiar problem that you have picked because while many times you're solving health tech from the different viewpoints, especially around patient care and around the doctors and payers and stuff. But I think this one piece that you picked up, which is connecting the supply chains and optimizing them, is something seldom talked about. So tell us more about this problem if you can. Like, what did you see when you went deeper into this, and then what was that turning point, and how did you start building?
Well, there's quite a few threads that I could talk about. I could talk about the technology and the way that we're applying it right now, and the understanding how mobile phones have kind of helped with that, and augmenting that with various types of labeling. So, for example, the QR code or the data matrix code that most products should have now. So that has helped.
So I imagine that most pharmacies would have some sort of management software where they basically measure the orders or the supply chain and so on. What I think magical about Encode is that it is connecting that aspect with what's going on in the clinician side. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
How do you do that?
Yeah, so the pharmacy have really nailed how to manage their supply chain. They're very good at that.
Right.
But when it comes to the actual inventory that is used in the hospital, so in surgical departments, in medical departments, so if you're an orthopedic surgeon, for example, in the UK, there can be sometimes difficulties in actually having a particular product for a particular patient at a particular time.
Right.
That's part of the supply chain issues. So I mentioned that there was a technology aspect to talk about, but also the actual handling of the inventory itself aspect. I'll talk about that a little bit more. So in the UK, there's something that there was an audit, and it's something incredible. Now, please don't fully quote me on this, but it's around 90% of hospitals in the UK don't have an electronic inventory management system as such in place. What they have is Excel spreadsheets, and they might have a handheld scanner that can scan in the products, and it goes into an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, something similar. And then they match what has been used there with the information from suppliers, and then there's this dialogue between the supply chain manager in the hospital and the suppliers themselves to kind of match up what's happening. So what we provide is a dashboard for the supply chain manager and also a dashboard for the supplier as well, so that they have live inventory management, both ends. There's no dispute about what's happening.
Okay.
So, and the way that we do that is by using the technology, leveraging the technology, leveraging the labels that are available on the side of products now. Most of these products are GS1 standard. GS1 means Global Standard 1. And this is the way that the information is organized within those labels, within that QR code, within that the zebra code, within the data matrix. So we kind um, gather that information
Mhm.
in that code, and then we match it with the actual labeling of the product itself.
Okay.
So the QR code itself has a certain amount of information.
Okay.
It's things like the number of the product, the expiry date, the GTIN number,
Right.
these kind of things.
Right.
And then we match it with what that actually is.
Okay.
And we use optical character recognition to onboard newer products as they come along. So we've created this repository that can be accessed by all that needs to be accessing that data. I think I've given you a lot of information. I'm sorry if I've overloaded
In fact,
you.
what I imagine is that the beauty of the whole model would exist that once you have more and more data, which can be used as an input to building the system better, I think you can create more predictions and create more value for the overall ecosystem.
Exactly. So it comes back to the lessons that we learned with certain surgeons that do their surgeries a little bit differently compared to other surgeons. So every time there is one particular surgeon that does a particular type of a procedure, we can map that. And even though there might be 10 orthopedic surgeons, for example, in one department, we don't just map the procedure itself, we map how the procedure is done and kind of provide the forecasting on a very contextualized basis per surgeon, per time of the year, you know, that kind of thing.
Great. So, Costas, one of the things that I noted down that I'd like to discuss with you would be like, once got to the thesis of the solution that this is how it would all work and so on. What are the challenges that you faced as an entrepreneur building this solution, and then how did you find ways to overcome those challenges?
Well, healthcare is very evidence-based. So one is being able to create the evidence that, for example, one of the claims that we put is that we will reduce admin time per patient by at least 3 hours because of the way that we manage the data that's shared between the patient, the clinician, and the supplier as well. Obviously, all of this is information that is governed by the fundamentals of human rights, data protection, that kind of thing. So what I would say is one of the difficulties is human factors, engaging with the surgeons, making sure surgeons, clinicians, whoever we're engaging with, to reassure them that this is safe, that we are, as best as we can, providing a very secure system, comparable to other secure systems.
So how did you prove that? Because eventually skeptics would always be there, and they would ask like how you are more secure, or how do you really take care of the privacy.
So there's certain regulations that need to be complied with to engage with an NHS trust or NHS hospital, and we, as best as we can, comply with those regulations and then try to exceed them with applications of AI in certain areas. So that is the way that we go about it. We've engaged with various groups that help us to comply with the regulations as well. So instead of our team onerously constantly trying to engage with them, we engage with an external group as well to make sure that we're complying with those regulations. We haven't missed anything. So the compliancy needs in Europe differ to the compliancy needs in the UK, to how they're required in the US. So it's difficult for one team, one group, to be able to understand all of those, apply all of those. But in general, we engage with other groups that have done this before as a group to kind of accelerate that process.
So, I see that AI is a very fundamental aspect of your whole solution. And, I've also seen many companies struggling with getting the real power of AI, especially, when you don't have that much data or that much knowledge to apply it.
Mm.
So, how has been your journey applying the AI aspect?
We're still learning, to be truthful. So we're still learning.
Yeah.
We're still looking at the best ways of applying AI. There are certain standards that we meet to ensure safety, but it's a very wide open question that but we could talk about the safety about consenting for data to incorporate that and to help the algorithms learn and create the right kind of statistics that we need to create. And also going back to our users and understanding what their needs are. So that there's quite a few aspects that kind of become part of daily life to ensure that we're providing the right type of AI and getting through the right regulations that we need to. Have I answered your question? I may have gone on a little bit of a tangent there.
Yeah. I think what I can summarize from what you shared is that you use AI into different aspects, and there's still learnings going on. So some of the aspects seem solved while some of the still need work, and you are still figuring out on your AI journey.
That is exactly right. So for example,
because I think you have to go delicately because of the security and privacy and ethical AI.
Exactly. So you hit the nail on the head. We do have to go delicately. We do have to make sure that each data set is specific to the way that the AI is trained. We try as best as we can to watch out for any kind of biases that may occur, and we try to mitigate any issues around the AI that may occur. So, for example, I mentioned previously we've got an optical character recognition that is an AI tool that we use to onboard products. But we also are developing an AI product that can help give handovers to clinicians, and also to write letters, post-operative notes, for example.
So, like generative AI kind of.
Yes, exactly. So the data set that is used can be specific per surgeon, like I said before, or it can be specific to the department. So, with example, neurosurgery, which is my area of interest, the way that primary tumours have been classified has now changed in 2021. So it's incorporating molecular diagnostics rather than just looking under a microscope and seeing whether it's a certain type of tumor. And incorporating this very small but specific amount of data can be very difficult to source that data and develop the handovers that are required and make sure that patients are going through an appropriate pathway. We're still developing that. I have to clarify that we are still developing, and we're designing certain pathways, and we're working with leading clinicians, both in the UK and US for that.
And that's fine. I mean, healthcare definitely takes time, like we were discussing during the panels today, that healthcare definitely requires the time and attention
Yeah.
to solve the problems. I think it cannot just go fast, fast, fast.
Yeah. I think once we've solved certain types of problems, especially with like data sets, I think we can actually make healthcare incredibly efficient. But that's just my opinion. That's my hope, and that's the direction in which we're going with Encode Health.
Okay. So, how is your team set up? Tell us more about your core team and the skills that they bring in.
Okay. So we've got you may have seen my business development partner, Carlon. He was in the meeting earlier. So he's an orthopedic surgeon, and we kind of him and myself, we kind of riff along the vision for Encode Health because of our own personal histories and experiences with healthcare, both engaging with large corporates and clinically at the same time. So we've both got that experience, and so we can riff and be able to understand what is good, what is not good, what will work, what won't work, and engage with other groups that would potentially want to work with us. So that's the core founding team, and then we've got the development team, and they're working incredibly hard to make sure that the back end architecture is correct, and ensuring that the data is placed in the appropriate ways and housed in the appropriate ways and is made secure. And then we have a design team as well to make sure that there's human factors when it comes to the interface, user experience, user interfaces are appropriate, they're not over-engineered in any way. And so somebody can come to the platform and just intuitively be able to just scan a product in, scan a product out, look at the forecasting capabilities, and have a pleasant time.
Of course.
Of doing
user experience is super important.
Yeah, exactly. And I really do want people to be able to come onto the platform and just have a pleasant time of doing their work.
Right.
Something that would be akin to maybe I'm just going to say names of other platforms like Slack or
how much it is integrated with
like social media.
Things that they already use, I think.
Exactly. I think there's a standard now that people are so used to. You can't just throw any kind of user interface at people and say, look, this does wonderful things. You've got to go here, and you'll get what you're asking for. People just have to intervene.
Right. True that. I think we have been seeing recently more and more companies or startups creating value just based on the user experience. Like the way they disrupt is just because they have a better user experience than probably what existed from the status quo companies. Great. So, Costas, my last question that you are in an industry that is constantly evolving, especially post-COVID. New things are happening every day. So, what are your habits to keep yourself abreast and up to date with new stuff happening, the learnings, the possibilities, the hypes, and so on?
Well, that's an interesting point. Like I said, I'm forever a student in many ways. So I'm working with the university. Well, I'm doing research with the University of Buckingham, and doing research in different applications of artificial intelligence and neurosurgery. And even though I'm looking at neurosurgery specifically, I can see other specialties that are developing in certain ways as well. So I mentioned previously about molecular diagnostics. It's not just neurosurgery that's doing that's applied that. It's other specialties as well that are applying that are understanding the genome more and more and more, and the details that can be gleaned from engaging with the genome and applying that into healthcare, and the information that is created from this is vast. And so there's for me, the way that I try to keep ahead of things is trying to understand how the genome is developing, with reference to research, and how artificial intelligence is developing with reference to research.
So, what are those sources? Like, do you name any sources that you usually follow that you find pretty legit and you would like to recommend to other health founders?
I do some of the very basics, like go to PubMed. I look at the other large healthcare data sets as well, and see what the summaries of those publications are, and try to restrict it to the last year or 2 years, because the amount of information that is developing is just fast. In the last 5 years of my research, I can see the difference between 2020 and 2023, the quality of the research that's been done. Before 2020, some of the research that was done was still based on just looking through a microscope. And now the research that is being done is very specific, using artificial intelligence algorithms to make sure that what biopsies are found from a particular patient are exactly what they say they are. And not only that, but to research it even more to understand what new types of genetic expressions per tumor have been found. So I'm very interested in trying to keep up to date with genetics, with artificial intelligence, how that is interpreting the results, and how that will help to provide a more precise and personalized healthcare treatment pathway.
Makes sense. So thanks so much, Costas, and I wish you all the best in building Encode and doing great things in healthcare.
Thank you very much. Thank you.